Hello and thanks for staying on LN 24/7. This is Politics Now. My name is Mono Balagbobo. Today on the show, we'll be talking about federal government's approach to solving Nigeria's challenges. Let's take a look at some of our talking points. Clamp down on Binance over allegations of FX manipulation. Secondly, curbing revenue leaks, implementing RSIA's 2012 report. Senate on employment of 10 persons per 774 local government area to fight insecurity. And joining us on the show today is Emmanuel Ayasi, crypto trader and influencer, and Nnamdi Abana, public affairs analyst. Well, let's take a quick breaker. We'll be right back to stay with us. I'm glad to know you're still with us. Well, let's begin with update with what the president said yesterday in Lagos, talking about slamming the labor, this time around the NLC. Let's have a listen to what he said.
The labor union should understand that no matter how much we cling to our freedom and rights, to call for strike within 9 months of an administration is unacceptable. If you want to participate in the electoral process, wait on the 2027. If not, maintain peace. You are not the only voice of Nigeria.
Tough words there from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to the Nigerian Labour Congress. Well, joining us to talk about this and our talking points that we just displayed to you is public affairs analyst Nnamdi Abana. Thank you so much for coming on Politics Now.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Let's go straight to the conversation. Tinubu shaded the NLC for protest and the strike plans just 9 months into his administration. Now, do recall that on Wednesday, the Labour raised alarm over alleged government desperate efforts to undermine the Congress and by dividing and ruling. You know, some people were of the opinion that probably government had something to do with TUC not being a part of the protest. And now Labour, the NLC, had to call off the protest. What are your thoughts on these tough words coming from the president to Labour, who are demanding, you know, that the government do something to handle the hunger that's in the land?
I'm not really surprised at the comments of the president. You know, there is a saying that he that brings in an infested wood into the house, that the person has invited the lizards, you know, for a feast. I have said it time without numbers that the labor unionism that we have in our country are unserious. They're not serious-minded people. Yes, the strike action was meant to be embarked upon by both the NLC and the TUC, but along the line, TUC pulled out, which is irresponsible on their part. And what that portends is that we don't have a serious pressure group to champion the cause of Nigeria, of the Nigerian, traders, because the TUC is actually trade Union Congress. They are meant to work hand in hand with the NLC. But in most cases, we've observed that these labor leaders are influenced by the government. Sometimes they are even bribed by the government to shelve their industrial action. So I wasn't really surprised. It has happened before during the time of one Eselo. I think he was the pioneer president of the TUC. As at then, when the body broke away from NLC, you know. So I'm not really surprised. Then coming to the NLC, they've not shown.
You know, talking about the decision to call off the protest, the Labour Minister actually said that 90% of the agreements has been fulfilled. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think so. You know, one thing you have to know is that the government will always present itself as a saint. The government will always try as much as possible to push the right narrative about what they've been able to do for the people. And mind you, the government thrives on propaganda. If I may ask, where are the CNG buses that the government promised? If I may ask, what is the current minimum wage? If I may ask, why did the government delay the payment of workers, you know, between December and January? So the government on its part has reneged on their promises. And then you look at the economic situation, you look at the price of petroleum products, you look at the inflation in the country. These are some of the highlights of the demands of the labor union. But the government has not been able to fulfill most of these promises. Then I was talking about the president's response to the labor leaders. I think that the labor leaders boxed themselves into that corner where, you know, they are now being ridiculed by the government. During the time of Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, between 1999 and I think 2003, Adams Oshiomhole was the NLC president. As a then, Adams pushed for the minimum wage. I think he was pushing for, I think, 40,000 or thereabout. But at the end of the negotiation with the government, it came down to about 30,000, between 30 and 35,000. I don't know the exact amount. Adams Oshiomhole was able to grind, you know, to ground the country. He was able to hold the government to ransom. He was able to ground the economy. We had serious strike actions that exceeded a week. We saw airports being picketed, you know, and when the labor union engages in such activities, it makes the government to lose revenue. It brings bad reputation for the government in the Committee of Nations. I mean, in the international community. The government is bound to sit down on a round table and negotiate with labor and yield to some of their demands. But unfortunately, I've not seen this seriousness and this tenacity of purpose on the part of Ajero, the leader of the NLC. Likewise, when they eventually embark on a strike, it's either he calls it off or they go on a strike for a day and then he returns back into his shell. That is not the way to mount pressure on the government.
All right, Abana, thank you for talking with us. We'll come to you shortly, but let's get to our first talking point away from the president's response to the Nigerian Labour Congress. Talking about the clampdown on Binance over allegations of FX manipulation. Emmanuel Ayasi joins us now on Politics Now. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, now on getting the FX market back on track, our federal government arrested two Binance officials, you would recall, amid the crypto clampdown. And in defense of this move, Bayo Naniga, who happens to be the special advisor to the president on information and strategy, said Binance and other cryptocurrency platforms should be banned from operating in the country. He said Binance is blatantly setting exchange rates for Nigeria and hijacking the role of the Central Bank of Nigeria, and therefore called on the EFCC and the CBN to move against the platforms, adding that the firms are trying to manipulate our national currency. Do recall Cardoso said the Apex Bank is collaborating with the SEC to ensure that there is no manipulation in the FX market. And of course, the popular cryptocurrency trading platform on Wednesday removed the Nigerian currency Naira from its peer-to-peer feature. And of course, this feature allows users and buyers and sellers to transact without the intervention of a third party. Now, coming to you, Emmanuel, did this platform contribute to the devaluation of the Naira?
For me, it doesn't actually contribute to the devaluation of the Naira. Like P2P, peer-to-peer, it's mostly for buyers looking for sellers and sellers looking for buyers. So it's not like there's a one entity or one central body that is everybody that buys everything. So it's just about different people coming and buying and selling. So if you agree to my price, I can sell to you. If you agree to if I agree to your price, you can sell to me. So that is just it for that. It doesn't actually contribute. The federal government, I think they are just chasing what is not actually there. And also, if you look at it, the volume of Nigeria in the crypto space is not that much. If you look at the volume of people actually trading Bitcoin, we are far bottom. We are not that much as the federal government actually thinks it is. And also, people who are buying, people who are selling, you will not want to go and buy above what they are actually selling at the primary market. And you will not want to sell below what they are selling at the primary market. So it all boils down to the primary market. People get the phone, people get used to, okay, how much is this thing selling? Like the person who is buying for you, if he buys above the primary market, how is he going to sell? These are some of the things that you have to put into consideration to know that trading P2P doesn't actually have any effect on currency devaluation. The truth is that we are not producing anything that we can actually get dollar for. And that is what is actually affecting us. And I can tell you for the fact that P2P, cryptocurrency, has actually empowered so many people. Like for me, I started with $0, and many people are on board too, started with $0. And the end dollar, they don't pay you in Naira, they pay you in dollar if you are working or if you are doing so many things in the crypto space. So I think the whole crypto thing actually contributes to the national economy per se. In the Nigeria, it actually helps improve the Naira instead of saying that it helps devalue the Naira.
Now, Emmanuel, we've seen gains on the Naira since clampdown on the BDC, and perhaps, even more gains might be seen from the clampdown on Binance and other crypto currency after this clampdown by government. The Naira, of course, on Thursday appreciated to 1,595 Naira per dollar in the official Nigerian foreign exchange market. When you look at some of these realities regarding how it is gradually dropping, there are some people who might be of the opinion that these policies of government is actually working. What are your thoughts on those who feel this way?
I think that was propaganda because you are not looking at the fact that CBN started giving people the change US dollars to sell at so rate. They say they started giving them dollar at the rate of 1.3 to sell at 1.3, 1.10, 1.314, no more than 1% gain. And also, you people haven't forgotten that lately some forex actually came into the CBN and they started offsetting some of their obligations, some of the obligations that they were actually holding onto. And probably they started giving some manufacturers who actually high demand of dollar and this. So it's not about clamping down on viewing the change that is actually bringing the Naira. But I don't see any say, oh, bring the Naira. Like 2 days ago, Naira was, and the rate was around 1.14, and today it's around close to 1.6. So I think the problem is still there. For sure, the problem is still there. We are not producing anything. We are not getting dollar, and our economy is almost like dollar dependent. So the moment federal government pays back to state government, they convert it to US dollar. So businesses need US dollar. People going to school need US dollar. So it doesn't actually. The problem is still there. It's still there. I think the government needs to look into production for them to actually find a way. Look into production. Let us actually be producing what we actually eat. Let's produce what we actually wear. Let's produce what we actually do. Let's contribute to the Nigerian economy positively and not taking out in the manner we have actually been training for years now. So I don't see any chasing down below the change, but they are chasing down below the change last week, and this week they are giving.
At this point, you know, one might wonder, is government just throwing anything out there in terms of policies or banning whatever it is to fix the Naira devaluation challenge?
Any strategy, they are just going, I don't know, they are just chasing ghosts, unnecessary things that doesn't actually contribute to the fact. They know what is the fact. Reduce government expenses, try to make this country a Naira country, don't dollarize. In some places, people are buying our properties with dollar. People are doing transactions with dollar. Even the politicians, they are still paying people in dollars. So how can you be doing all this in dollar and you want your currency to actually appreciate? Manufacturers, they can't get dollars from CBN. The truth is, if CBN can be able to be providing forex for people for the demand that is actually needed, I don't see the currency going up that much. They flooded the currency. What do they expect? What do they expect? People need to pay for the student school fees. People need to do business. People need to buy. What are we producing with that we get the raw material in Naira? Even the ordinary cement, they have to use the manufacturers. They need dollar. Everything needs dollar. So it's not about crypto people that is the big thing. Crypto that is not having any volume that they are saying is because of the problem. It's not because of the problem.
Now, Emmanuel, the Abia State Governor Alex Otti lamented the free fall of the Naira, saying the federal government printed too much money in circulation. Is this the case to you, rather than the government's clap down on all of these platforms like we are seeing today?
Yeah, currently, was it last 2 weeks or so when Godswill Akpabio, the Senate President, put in motion to the House that they have to start probing the 30 trillion ways and means. These are money that was printed without backing. The Buhari administration printed without backing. You can't just go and print money, so much money, and pour into the system without any backing. No gold reserve backing, no oil backing, no nothing backing. And you say your currency is going to hold on. And people are going to be, who are the people buying up these dollars? We could remember during election time, they're paying people in dollars. They're paying delegates in dollars. All these things, buying up all the dollars. Anytime there's an election in this country, dollar goes up. Anytime they pay state tax, dollar goes up. What kind of country are we running? These are politicians. They have to look in themselves first. That is where the problem is. It's not about chasing people up and down, chasing during the change, chasing crypto people. Say they are the cause of this. What is the volume of crypto in national economy, in Nigerian economy? Crypto that even 0.1% of the Nigerian population are not even into. We are very fractional in this crypto thing. And how many people are actually rewarded? If you are going to tell me, if Nigeria was a high income country, I would say, okay, maybe. But this one is Naira. Like, how many people come into the cryptocurrency with buying Bitcoin or this thing? People come into the system trying to get free, trying to start low and grow up. So where are they going to see Naira to buy dollar? People who have not eaten. People who don't have any money in their account. So it doesn't actually make any sense.
Emmanuel, let it not be as if we're just after government and always criticizing government. We know government is doing and taking steps, you know, to solve majority of Nigeria's problems. But when you look at it critically, is it fair on the president that, this was something that he told to Labour yesterday? Is it fair that in just 9 months, Nigerians expect him to just deliver on all of these promises, even the economic challenges? But to be fair, he has actually taken responsibility on how he is handling the economy. But what are your thoughts? Are we too hard on the president?
The truth is, I keep saying this thing, even while I was in the university, I keep arguing this thing, that since we got independent to now, we have not had any good leadership. We have not had any leadership with good structure, with good foresight, or maybe we don't even have any national, what will I say, national goal, or maybe, okay, in the next 10 years, this is where we want to be. So even we argue that we had a very long military resistance. That was that was the cause. But for me, the leaders we have been having, they are actually no sighted. They only put on winning. They don't know how to rule. That is not the truth. They all don't want to win. When they get to the power, they discover that they don't have anything on the field. But I didn't stay for 8 years, and we couldn't get. Look at where we are. Look at where we are. Good luck. I think we start looking for people. Maybe we should bring back this debate of president. What do you have in plan for us? What are you setting in motion? Because we can't continue like this. The industries that were there in 1980s, they are more than what is currently now. Many industries have left, no power. Since 1970 something, we are still on 4,000 megawatts. We can't even, does it look like we are even progressing now? It doesn't look like we're actually progressing in any way at all. And that is not the fact. It doesn't look like we're progressing. I'm not sure that he actually has anything planned. He's just trying to try and error. And that is just the thing. Maybe he didn't say that Buhari has messed up the country or the country is messed up to this thing. But at this stage, he's just doing try and error. And it is just what it is currently.
Emmanuel, we have to be positive that things are going to get better. Thank you so much for coming on Politics Now.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, let's continue the conversation. Nnamdi Abana is still with us. I want to come to you, Nnamdi, still talking about President Tinubu owning up to his responsibility in terms of how he's handling the economy. We've seen previous administrations in the time past, when it comes to issues of governance, they like to blame the previous government. But Bola Tinubu is not doing that, most especially when it comes to the issue of the economy. He said he will not allow marauders sabotage the economy. What are your thoughts on him taking on the economic challenge head-on?
Well, for me, let me start from the president taking responsibility before I get to the Orosaya report. President should be in charge. He should actually take responsibility for the shortcomings of his government. It is not enough for the president to come out to say, I take responsibility for all that is happening. The name of the game is result. We want a president who will produce outstanding and remarkable results. For the past 9 months since he assumed the leadership of this country, we've not seen any sign of seriousness on the part of the president to reposition our country, how do I put it, to reposition us at the right pedestal economic-wise, even politically wise. And in fact, many sectors are suffering. We are having issues with this, with security. We're having issues with the political climate. We're having issues with the economy. It seems the government, the president had no plan before he ascended the office of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. If he had a plan, by now we would have made remarkable improvements in our economy. By now we wouldn't be talking about, about a depressed economy. We won't be talking about inflation. We won't be talking about, crime, because criminality thrives where there is a depressed economy. So it's quite unfortunate that he had no plan before he ascended that office. And mind you that when he came in during the inaugural address, he ought not to have made that statement about the removal of fuel subsidy. Yes, Obi talked about the removal of fuel subsidy. Other presidential candidates spoke in the same light, but he didn't get the details or the modus operandi that they're going to use to execute the subsidy removal. Some could have adopted a disjointed incremental approach. In other words, they would have done it bit by bit before they get to a total removal. But immediately he came in here, he said fuel subsidy is gone, and immediately all the filling stations locked up, prices were jacked up, and the whole country was thrown into chaos and confusion, leading to inflation, rising prices of goods and services. We've not been able to come out of that quagmire up till now. And then the question is, what is the way out? What is the way out? I'm aware that the candidate of the Labour Party has been profiling some solutions, even though he's not meant to. But as a nationalist, he's been speaking to the economy on things that needs to be done for our economy to be placed in the right pedestal.
All right, Abana, we'll take a quick breather. We'll be right back to talk more. This time we'll talk about the RSIA 2012 report implementation. Stay with us. Politics Now continues in a short bit. Glad to know you're still watching Politics Now on LN 24/7. Just to bring you a rundown of some of our talking points again, if you were just tuning in, we're talking about the federal government's approach to solving Nigeria's challenges. You talk about economic challenges, talk about security challenges. We're looking at clampdown. We just looked at, rather, the clampdown on government's allegations that Binance is manipulating the FX market. And of course, curbing leaks is what we're moving to now, looking at the implementation of RSIA's 2012 report. And the update on this particular issue is that the House of Representatives on Thursday described the 2012 RSIA report as outdated and called on President Bola Tinubu to thoroughly review it before going ahead to implement the same. The House therefore raised a 23-man committee chaired by the House leader Julius Nhobere to recommend appropriate measures to mitigate the likely fallout of the RSIA report review. The committee, headed by former head of civil service of the Federation, Stephen RSIA, recommended the scrapping and merging of 222 out of the then existing 541 government agencies. Of course, we've got more than that. Well, let's have a listen to Honorable Kama and Kem Kanka, federal lawmaker from Ebonyi State.
The House warned that the full implementation of the report 12 years after it was first made, which ordinarily may be described as outdated, especially because of how dynamic the society, economy, politics, technology, and all facets of our national life has been. The House concerned that it's contrary to the assumption that the full implementation of the report will reduce cost of governance with the current realities. The full implementation of the report will not substantially reduce the cost of governance, as it does not reflect the current situation in the public service of the Federation. The House deeply worried that the full implementation of 2012 report in 2024 will certainly
Now, a lot of people have been reacting to this development regarding the president's approval of the implementation of the Orosaya report. Even legal luminary Falana has also called for a review. And now the House of Rep members with constituting a 23-man committee to look into it. Well, what are your thoughts, Namdi?
Coming to the Orosaya's report, many people received it with mixed feelings. One is that the president is willing and ready to effect a change, by initiating some reforms, which has to do with cutting the cost of governance, reducing the number of MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies that we have in the country. And basically that will help to cut the cost of governance. But again, we are also looking at the appropriateness of the execution of that report at this particular time. This report that we are talking about is over a decade, and Nigerians are asking the question, will the recommendations of that report suit the current realities that we are facing in our country today? So some people are calling for a review of the report. Others are calling for a partial adoption of the report. For me, the recommendations of the reports, some of them are good, and I think that they should be implemented. However, the government needs to set up an economic team to take a look at that report again. The things that are in the report that are already obsolete should be removed, and the ones that need to be improved upon should be, adjusted to meet with the demands of the current realities that we are facing in our country today. So I am for reforms, but again, reform comes with its effects. When that report is executed, many ministries, departments, and agencies will be merged. Some will be, how do I put it? Some will become extinct. The question many are asking is, what happens to the employees? So definitely, some employees of government are going to lose their jobs. So that will also lead to a spike in the rate of unemployment that we have in the country. And the government is here to tell Nigerians how they are going to help to reassign.
There's been fears of job loss due to this development, though the Ministry of Information, Mohammed Idris, said this won't be the case as government is finding a way to work out this situation. But do you have any second thoughts on this?
I listened to the minister, and the minister was categorical in his statement. He said that, the workers are not going to lose their jobs. But common sense tells us that when the ministries, departments, and agencies are merged, some are going to be declared, for want of words, let's say, extinct. Definitely some staff members will be affected. So the Minister of Information is just deploying propaganda in order not to overheat the polity. But it is certain that once the government decides to execute that report, many people are going to lose their jobs. It is definite.
Still on curbing revenue leakages, the executive chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Zach Adidiji, said that the collection of revenue by over 60 government agencies is a major cause of leakage of funds. And He's advising, when he explained to the House of Reps Committee on Finance that a lot of internal restructuring have been introduced since assumption of office, noting that the revenue collection duty should be the sole responsibility of the FIRS in order to ensure greater accountability in the system. Now, what's your take on the revenue collection being solely the responsibility of the FIRS?
Well, every government that comes in has its own blueprint. Like I said earlier that it appears to me that the current government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu doesn't have a blueprint for running the country. So I think he just got into power and he's trying to understand how the system works. As the problems are cropping up and the ones that they are discovering, he's trying to tackle them head on. So it's not as if he had some plans in place on how to reposition the economy. So I'm not surprised with what is happening at the FRIS, Federal Inland Revenue Services. I'm not surprised. So, but it's a good development that they are looking into restructuring that agency and making it more effective for more revenue generation by the government.
Your report and clamp down to solve Nigeria's economic challenges. Where is the role of strategy in all of this? How strategic do you think government is in handling Nigeria's economic challenges?
Every government should have a listening ear. Every government should also listen to economic experts, and every government should be able to identify the intelligentsia within the country. Such technocrats should be brought, they may not be brought into government, into the mainstream of governance, but they should be at the background to help the government articulate its policies that will lead to economic buoyancy, policies that will lead to the rejuvenation of every sector, of the economy. There was something that the president did last week. He had a meeting with some notable personalities, businessmen, and some economists. Dangote was there, Bua Cement, the owner of Bua Cement was there, Charles Soludo, Rewane, I think the governor of Ogun State. Yeah, we should be seeing something like that. But when I saw the likes of Bua Cement and it's inviting these people, these are core capitalists. In fact, these people are part of the challenges that we are having in our country. You don't bring...
That has been the concern for me too, because earlier when the president removed fuel subsidy, he said the high and mighty in this country have held this nation to ransom for a lot of time. Now, like you said, what do these capitalists really have to offer in terms of our economic recovery plan? These are people who are bent on making money. So what do they have to offer? Just to add to what you were just talking about.
To give back to the society, especially now that the Nigerian economy is depressed. You don't bring a Dangote, you don't bring a Tony Elumelu to tell you how to make the economy to become buoyant. These are people that are already profiting from the status quo. And any attempt to disrupt the profit that they are making, they are going to fight it. So that's why I said he should have limited his advisors to technocrats. Yes, people like Rewane, people like Soludo, they've got something upstairs. Soludo is in government, so he might not be that sincere. There are people that are not in government that are good technocrats, good economists that should be able to advise the government, appropriately. It's not right for him to bring in all the people that worked for him while he was the governor of Lagos State to perform miracles now that he's the president? Times are changing. Lagos is just a state out of the whole 36 states in the Federation and the FCT. So that they were able to perform in Lagos doesn't translate to their ability to perform at the national level. So I think that's the problem we're having currently. He should have sat down to do a proper research, to scout for great minds across the country, you know, to place them in the right and sensitive offices in order to move the country forward. But it is becoming apparent that most people in his cabinet are basically those who worked for him previously in Lagos and, you know, a few other southwestern states, you know. So this is Nigeria. You don't use a state template to run a country. So I think that is also a major challenge. And then you look at the pedigree of the people you are giving appointments. It's very important. The success. Remember, while President Goodluck Jonathan, while he was the president, the former president, while he was president, Nigeria was declared the fastest growing economy in the world. How did we get to that point? Former President Jonathan was able to hire the best hands. He even had to go outside the country to bring back some Nigerians to help him run the affairs of some sensitive ministries. People like Adesina, people like Okonjo-Iweala, people like
Not to downplay on the pedigree of some of President Tinubu's economic team, but are you trying to say that the Lagos crew that he worked with, you know, during his time as governor of the state are not capable enough to solve Nigeria's challenges? I mean, you were comparing President Goodluck Jonathan's ability to bring people even outside of the country to work on the economy of our nation.
They are not competent. This is 9 months. If you were to, if an office or an establishment offers you an employment, you are placed on probation for about 6 months. And in 6 months, if you're not able to perform, they throw you out. For crying out loud, this is 9 months plus. And the president is not yet to perform. It's as though he's still trying to find his feet. He's still trying to articulate some policies, you know. From what we've seen, is as though there was no plan ab initio, no skill, leadership skill. So I don't know. It's really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate.
Now, will the president's approval of implementing the Oronsai's report be stalled by recommendations of the 23 committee formed by the House of Reps?
Well, that's a dicey question. Usually when the government wants to make some sensitive changes, it usually goes through the National Assembly. But it's not everything that the president does that should go through the National Assembly. This is a report, you know, a report that makes this is a report that is meant to move the country forward. And as it stands, the president needs to move with speed for Nigeria to recover economically. So we don't need all those, should I borrow the word from the civil service, all those red tapeism. We don't need it at this moment. The president has the power to utilize the powers of his executive office, that's the executive order, as you rightly said, to see to it that actions are expedited on that report. And I think that he needs to act very fast for Nigeria to thrive within a short period of time.
All right, let's move on to our final talking point for today. The Senate on Thursday, February 29th, directed the Police Service Commission and the Nigerian Police Force to recruit a minimum of 10 candidates from each of the 774 local government councils in Nigeria. The directive, according to the upper chamber, should form part of its annual recruitment process. The resolution was reached as a result of a motion moved by Senator Emmanuel Udende Menga, representing Benue Northeast, on the need for the Police Service Commission and the Nigerian Police to adhere to the federal character principle in the recruitment of constables in the Nigeria's police force. Now, Nnamdi, I want to ask you, what are the implications of this bill? How will it be effective if it is passed into law in curbing insecurity in the country?
Well, for me, what the police is doing is an exercise in futility, because we've seen that the process has been compromised in time past. There was a recent recruitment in one of the paramilitary organizations. We realized that the people who signed up as Southeasterners were actually from Core North. So the whole recruitment process, they've been compromised. At the end of the day, you find out that most of the people that are recruited into some of these armed forces, they are from the North, because we have a compromised system. So it is not a question of the police recruiting people from different states or different geopolitical zones. I don't subscribe to that. For me, I believe in community policing. Every governor should replicate what the late governor of Ondo State did. That is Akeredolu, who introduced the Amoteku security outfits. State governors should have the ability to establish their own security outfits. Once they're able to do that, they will be able to fight crime. While Peter Obi was the governor of Anambra State, he was able to introduce what he called then Anambra Vigilante Service.
You know, Nnamdi, I was thinking when they presented this motion before the upper chambers, I was thinking it was a situation of trying to curb insecurity in the country. But when you talk about federal character, that's more like, okay, what's my share? What's your share of the national cake? But is it really handling the issue of insecurity in the country? I was thinking that this was probably more of, you know, bringing down to home the initiative of having state police in the country. What's your take on this?
There has never been a time where proportional distribution or representation was adopted in the recruitment process or in the political process. Everything that we've done in this country has been done according to quota system. They will tell you, oh, the Northerners, they have a lot of land mass, they have a lot of population, and they leverage the compromised census that we've done over the years, where we find, apologies to the Northerners, but this is true. This is true. I'm not trying to fabricate stories. Some Northerners use palm kernel for fingerprints. They've been caught. If you search the internet, you'll see some of these things.
Now, before I let you go, I want us to still talk about something that Governor Zulum of Borno State raised, which has to do with insecurity. We all know how that state has suffered in terms of insecurity challenges. Well, the governor implored the federal government to rescind its decision to merge the Army University, Borno State, with the Nigerian Defense Academy, as recommended by the Orosaye report. Now, his argument is that Boko Haram's primary mission is to truncate Western education, and collapsing the Army University as a faculty within the NDA is like helping the insurgency to achieve some of its major objectives. What are your takes on this quickly before we go?
Yeah, I share the same concerns with Governor Zulum. States like Borno, states that have been affected by Boko Haram, the government needs to counter their ideology by putting up structures and institutions that challenges their worldview. By the time the government begins to withdraw some of those institutions and establishments, to them, they are winning the war. Because actually, they believe that everything Western is sacrilege and should be removed from their sphere of influence. So I think I agree with Zulum. Like I said earlier on, your Rosanna report is good, but we need a committee to sit down and review the report. The report is over a decade. You don't apply an old report to a contemporary society. Some of the recommendations are good. Some of the recommendations needs to be adjusted. Some needs to be thrown into the garbage can.
Thank you so much for your thoughts, Nnamdi Abana, on Politics Now. But I'm afraid time is of the essence. We must go so that our programming on this station can continue. Thank you so much once again, Nnamdi, for coming on Politics Now.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And that's our show for today. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, my name is Morno Balagbobo. Do have a lovely evening. No white shorts.